No, 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 no. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, this dungeon is kidding me, man. I love this game. I hate this game. Hey guys, it's Kussi. Welcome back to the I tried to attempt all portals in one session episode of this journey to put the dragon into Dragon D's nuts in our Zero to Hero Preservation Evoker Edition, episode 8. In fact, the final episode. If this is your first time watching, this is a journey of our girl Anus Strasser to collect all dungeon portals from this season, which means timing every key on plus 20 or above. A few rules for this one are of course the lacking connection to our Radar.io profile, no usage of friend lists, no external gold, and even though we allow guilds as a part of a community thing, I didn't join one yet. And another rule is that we only apply to other people's keys and don't play our own. This way we have no saying on who's to join or who isn't, which leaves everything to the dice, so to speak. In the last episode we got a pretty decent disappointment from our vault, because it seems I'm illiterate, blind, dumb, or well, all of the above, because I thought I had set legs as one of our options, but turns out it was a helmet. After that we got our feet, hooves. What do dragons have? Claws? Sure, why not? We gotten our claws wet with the 4th week of Mythic Plus on our journey by dipping into the pool that was tyrannical, sanguine and volcanic, in which we also attempted our first plus 20 with a tank that was item level 453. While in this episode, as the title suggests, I'm going to attempt to time all 8 dungeons on a plus 20 level to gather all portals in one sitting. Well, besides the one from Murazons, since we got that already. Also, we will talk about what's next, considering the release date of Season 4, and I do have a bit of a cheeky surprise at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. So, without further ado, make sure to grab a drink, get comfy, and make sure that... on second thought, grab 2 drinks, because this episode is a bit longer than usual. Okay, so without further ado, again the reminder, this is week 4, and we got tyrannical, sanguine as well as volcanic to deal with. And because my latest recording session was a few days ago, I felt the need to warm up in a lower key before I attempt some 20s. I actually didn't want to include that one, but I reckon you're gonna feel some joy in here. So Ataldazar is on a 17, seems doable. Good thing I did that warm up though, cause not only was Roseanne good to get my mental ready for possible roadblocks, it was also a very good way to wake up from a healer's point of view. I just straight up let the tank die here, which is one of those things one would say was avoidable. After that, we had a quick reality check on the middle pack where the tank ran a lot further than I expected, therefore I wasn't in range and he didn't have anything to lift that pull either. And then we just weirdly chain pulled the entire right side of the dungeon. Here everything went wrong. From standing in vomit, nobody kicking anything, as well as the warlock just randomly adding another pack even though the first one was still alive. This is wild. But not enough there, we even added the pack after that, cause the warrior body pulled it while trying to avoid the stuff on the ground. Oh boy was I sweating. Almost getting out-healed by sanguine too. This was just not meant to be, and the warrior had enough. At least I was warm now, so I applied for a hot minute and got invited into a plus 20 Darker ticket, and shortly after arriving at the dungeon, I spectated the tank and was certain that I do not need to worry about this dude. 489 Gore Howl, as well as the cheat death trinket and Firak's heart. He will not die. And turns out, this poison I died to 2 episodes ago actually does hurt pretty much when not dispelled. Good to know. Now when fighting the bears, which I wasn't certain about why we actually did it, considering we could have cloaked it, we tracked back so much that we added this little pack to the side, and then even one more after that. I'm pretty sure that was even me pulling them. Sorry, chief. Now the first boss is pretty free as a healer. You only need to make sure to spot heal the target with the bleed ASAP, since the dot will disappear once the target is over 90% HP. Other than that, just don't die. However, it was after the boss when we actually cloaked, which is the first time I'd done this at this very place. But that didn't go too well either, since I was in dire need of a step bro after getting stuck somewhere along the way. But Invis potions will provide the necessary sneakiness, and so we continue our way. Now, besides a good amount of AoE damage on the stomp, the second boss isn't too difficult either, especially if your tank just out-heals the grip and the breath. I pretty much just tried to make sure to have echo up on everybody before the stomp, and then just verdant embrace myself for a quick heal on everyone. Worked out quite well. Yet Drezaron is one that could get a bit hairy, as they say. That thing does a lot of AoE. The pushback followed by the big shout was something to keep my mind busy, Very important to heal up the full ASAP after the wind ends for sure. Now granted, the boss took a bit longer, cause I think our hunter wasn't as geared as the rest, but we still managed to kill it without major problems, which only leaves Xavier's to talk about. Now 2 things here are very important for us. Besides the normal Nightmare Bolt and the Paranoia, we need to make sure the Feet of the Weak gets healed through proper, as well as a big AoE once he reaches 50% HP. Good thing is, his phase change takes a few seconds to cast, in which we can catch up on the health bars, as well as pressing Xavier for reduced AoE. I'm getting good at this, guys. Very clean kill, but we in fact missed some score for some reason, but over 3 minutes for 1 pack seems doable. 40 score to our name means we are only 15 away from Keystone Hero, not that that really matters for this challenge. Now for the next dungeon I want to provide some context. I applied for ages. The Darker ticket ended at 10:38 and the next key started around 20 minutes later. In the meantime, I didn't take a break. I just didn't get invited into 20s. So I decided I might need to go for some extra rating instead first. Yet don't worry, I can keep this short and sweet since nothing mentionable happened. Pretty clean run for an extra 28 rating that puts us over the 2500 mark. Cool? With still 6 dungeons to time, I kept applying and finally got into a key that didn't sit too well earlier. Atal'Dazar on a 20. At least my mindset was, this cannot be worse than before. So I was very calm. Matter of bro, why can't people just run from him? Yet this time our tank took a route that seemed a bit more chill for yours truly. We just took a quick double pack to the left hand side of the dungeon and then went towards the plague area while not pulling everything. I like that a lot. Keep in mind, Atal'Dazar is one of those dungeons where you can easily pull 1 pack at a time and still be fine with the timer. Even Volkal went absolutely solid first try, but I was very worried about the next boss. I came to realize that this sucker hurts like hell whenever the transfusion is running. So I had to prepare my cooldown rotation for that, which wasn't as easy as it sounded. I quickly learned that my plan A for every transfusion wasn't enough, so I had to pull out something extra out of my scaly ass.
Oh, snagged.
Even had to be given a lay on hands, cause I miscalculated the incoming damage. I had everything up to prevent that. For some reason my brain just won't allow to use Renewing Blaze properly. It's such a fantastic spell, but I just failed to make use of it. But at least this means we got everything up for the final boss, which doesn't mean shit if I never use it. Yet, we all remember the last boss. A lot of movement, movable spider cosplaying bombs, a nasty dot, and exorcism? This chick has it all. And boy is this one stressful as a healer. Good god. This went so crazy, I was just mindlessly pressing buttons while just trying to save my own ass most of the times. And while the timer seems like we are doing good towards the +2, my heart rate was pounding like a bunny getting busy. But in the end, timed nonetheless. Another 47 rating and another portal done, 3 out of 8 so far. Also, believe it or not, this was one of the dungeons I dreaded to do. Just because for me on a healer, this is giga stressful. Speaking of stressful, oh man, even though this is a nice segue, let's take a detour. We interrupt this program for a shameless self-plug. Kusi, why are you always so chill and never get frustrated when playing healer? Is a question I pretty much get asked every day.
Stop the cap.
Okay, no one actually asked it, but I need it for a build-up. And then I respond, oh little Jimmy, that's you by the way, I only stay sane cause I like and subscribe every video of my favorite YouTuber. Cause you know what brings me joy? Supporting my heroes. Oh, so I just need to like and subscribe and you will be happy then? Absolutely little Jimmy. Oh cool, I will do that right away. Don't be cold-hearted, be like little Jimmy and support your heroes. Now, back to the video. Speaking of stressful, Dawn of Tides is next. But funny enough, it was with the same tank we just did in Atal'Dazar with. And quite frankly, I don't have any complaints about that. Now, a few of you will say, oh, don't do Throne this early, it will just break you. Am I right?
Yes.
Do you really think I bricked this key?
Yes.
Oh, you really have no trust in me, huh?
No.
Well, I will show you what's good then. I do have some complaints about the team comp though, since triple red paladin seems a bit sketchy. But hey, at least full melee and all of them can use self-heal on them. Could be worse. So, as per usual, we quickly made work of all of the trash that happens in here, till we arrived on the first boss. Here things got a bit tricky. Or, to be honest, it more or less made the next boss a lot trickier, since we pretty much just wasted all of our CRs to random one-shots. Dodging the swirlies as a melee shouldn't be too difficult, I feel like. And as we all know, right after Mummy Naja, we got the walking fish mech as our first reality check. Mess up here and pay with your life. But even though we lost 2 of our glowing pink rangers, we still had 1 more to divine storm us to victory. Yet it turns out the 3rd boss will be a lot more struggle than I thought. I personally only had the flame shock in mind, which you all know hurts like hell and I can't dispel all of them. But the MVP of this boss goes to the Storm Fairy totem. Now the ones of you that watched the livestream a few weeks ago know I struggled on that with my Feral too when I was tanking with full DPS gear. His auto attacks slap like crazy as long as the totem is alive. And still, I didn't expect that damage to go through like that. That's on me. I will do better next pull. Unfortunately, my only external for the tank didn't come up in time, and so he flopped over again rather quickly. Now, I don't want to point fingers here at all, but I sort of assumed the shield block would soak most of the hits done here. Cause even when I spam heal him, which I can't always do due to the flame shock, I probably could barely keep up. Now, we wiped the total amount of 4 times before we called last try. And just like this would trigger the magic gamer mode, we killed the boss. We should call last try on every pull it seems. And even though the gauntlet was rather spicy, cause Sanguine decided to beat me in the healing contest, it didn't really matter anymore, since the key is bricked anyways, so we can take as long as we want for this. Final boss though, oh man. This thing baited us in believing everything is fine until our tank ran out of space and got slapped with the cast. I guess he didn't see the other side was completely clean to stand in. But sadly the lack of space became a recurring issue, which I will simply blame on the lack of motivation at this point. We attempted it 2 more times, until we sort of silently agreed to just leave it be, and so we went our ways. After 43 minutes spent, almost 50 deaths, and nothing in return. I guess we all agree that if there's a key that shit gets rough in, it's thrown for sure. But we don't got time to live in the past. After that I quickly buffed up by grabbing a new belt to replace my 457 with a juicy 486. Damn! And on top, Galakrond's 20 is next. An easy one for a change. Now as we all know, the first boss is not really a struggle at all. Most important thing for us is to watch out for his big slice on the tank, since he will apply a big heal absorb that needs to be dealt with ASAP. Followed by a dispel on the tank, otherwise he will take some mad damage. Besides that, just tank and spank pretty much. And I would love to say I didn't let anyone die on the trash towards the second boss, but that would be a lie.
An easy one for a change.
But on the boss I realized how focused I was to not mess this one up. Not only did I try hard like a maniac to top people off in between rings, I also actually stood still when dispelling myself to take no damage from it.
Thank God.
I know this is a basic thing for you guys, but healing still stresses me out enough to the point that I actually have to do those things consciously. Yet, besides our Shadow Priest dying to the balls, which was unpreventable by me, we got through this just fine in the end. But being that weird German overthinker, the next boss already came to mind. Also trying to heal the trash before the boss without using major cooldowns was a thing for itself. But to the boss, we don't talk about phase 1 for obvious reasons, but phase 2 is getting spicy real quick. Our core idea here is to have everyone on max HP when the wind starts, just to also heal them up during the wind, which means this is a perfect scenario for stasis, and you absolutely should avoid being hit.
Easy one.
Some groups even last here to ensure there will be only one win phase, but the party communicated for phase 3 last, so I had to get through that. Rest of the fight, no problem, which leaves only Iridicron open. I wasn't worried too much about this boss, since it seems like it's Earth Surge 9 out of 10 times that wipes the parties, and this group didn't seem stressed by mechanics so far. But of course, Earth Surge took a life, and even though I let the priest die on the barrage too, because my timing was absolutely horrible, we pushed through to the final phase. .2% missing to finish the key with a 2-chester. That's unlucky, and I could probably have provided that damage to the boss if I wasn't so focused on safely overhealing. We still had time to play it, so we went for it again, and this time we again lost someone during Earth Surge. This is getting hella close now. 3rd attempt, and this time no mess ups. We got to the last phase again, and this time we got it done. "7 seconds too late." It's so annoying that I could probably helped out the 2-chesters with just a little bit of damage. Instead we bricked it. I'm so sorry gang. Even the 9 rating gain can suck a fat one. I was pissed at myself for not providing more there, and that I pussied out to overheal instead. This means now we attempted an overall of 5 dungeons so far and only got 2 portals. This is going to be a long day, but I'm done fucking up. 20 Black Rock Cold is next, and if we know anything about this dungeon, it is free. Well, sort of. But what made this a weirdly fun one was that we got a Demon Hunter and the Fury as our DPS that go absolutely ham with an Augmentation Evoker, and boy, were the numbers a sight to behold. We don't even need to talk about the first boss and just look at the damage done after the second. It's so stupid. What follows next was also a first for me. We just pulled the entire floor at once. Sanguine pumping healing like crazy, this was so weird to be a part of. Just imagine how fast those packs would pop without Sanguine healing over 800k HPS at some point. The only death we had, up until the final boss, was from the boulders. So you can imagine we raced through this with ease. But now came my part to shine, surviving the first Shadow Bolt volley. And I played it so bad. My idea was to go for Echo, into Verdant Embrace, into Communion, but I forgot the Embrace. And that was so incredibly shit that I was so mad at myself for actually letting someone die on the run that went so flawlessly. Got a neck for it, but gave it away like a good girl. This means now we sit on 4 out of 8 portals, and thus we continue to my favorite dungeon. We only did on 19 so far. The Everbloom was about to be conquered, and funny enough, this is the exact same setup as the last dungeon. And no, I actually went back to check, but this is indeed a different party. Now, as we all know, Everbloom not only can go 2 different ways, either good or horrendous, you also have an infinite amount of possibilities when it comes to pathing in here. And pretty early on I figured that I will absolutely like this tank. He only pulled what he could handle, in both damage intake as well as CC usage. Especially the Silent Sigil was used very well, though I was curious and slightly concerned about the 10 flowers into the boss. Usually that's a normal thing to do these days, but with Sanguine, this can get really tricky. So I'd say that was a bit of wishful thinking on the tank's end, but as you can imagine, with the burst of a Demon Hunter and a Fury paired with the Orc Invoker, this boss melted like my mental fortitude on the throne key earlier. I hate this game. After that, we continued to chill and manageable pulling straight towards the second boss. Now, I'm not sure why, but this one got a lot spicier than I remembered it to be on the 19th. I mean, obviously, this will get better as soon as the first boss dies, but still, this was rough. I even let our lovely Evoker die, cause I couldn't handle their juice. But hey, there are 3 bosses in here that could pose a problem for a healer noob like myself, and this was only the first. Archmage Soul, my little son, that burnt my ass more often than any Taco Bell menu. Key here is simple. Stay outside to bait the Arcane Orb and prepare Giga Power Overload Pew Pew heal when the fire ability is about to pop off. And even though I know what's coming, I struggle a lot more than I'd like to admit. What didn't help though was me getting stuck here and almost getting frozen because of it. Step Bro is gonna get busy today, man.
You teasing me, you naughty.
Now obviously, just like you, when I see the replay of this fight, there are so many things I could have done better. For example, just using my personal cooldowns to take less damage, so I could heal others for more. But even after weeks of playing this class, it still stresses me out. Yet no one died, and that's enough for me to squeeze out a wet tear of joy, and so we move to the final boss, with all the time in the world to 2-chest this key. Again, I feel like besides the swap to the big flower that DPS need to do, this thing is all about healing. The stomp hurts like hell, and when the big flower is up, it gets less and less funny over time. I'm really happy that there's no stomp during Genesis, to be honest. But with those pumpers that just easily took care of the flowers, I was blessed with yet another time key, portal number 5, and a trinket. Finally, I can replace this 463 chicken with a proper one. Afterwards, I did have a good chuckle, cause as soon as the key ended, the tank whispered me about his performance. This was so quick, no way he typed that. He had to have that on copy-paste for sure. But I couldn't say anything bad to him, to be fair. He did fantastic. I told him that this flower onto the first boss pull was a bit unnecessary, but besides that, nothing but love for this brother. But let's talk about this sweet trinket. Granted, the DPS one would be better overall, but this one has a mad shield to be applied every 60 seconds. And if the shield breaks, the target gets a solid amount of verse for free. I like a defensive trinket for now for sure. Now, with Everbloom out of the way, we got 3 more dungeons to time. A rather easy one in Galakrond's Fall, a horrific one in Throne of Tides, and Waycrest Manor. 5 bosses on Tyrannical are always a joy, am I right?
No?
And finally we got the different party setup. Enhancement Shaman and Demolog into the fray this time, and another Prot Warrior. I reckon people watched the last video where this absolute weapon of an undergeared warrior tanked my ass to the promised land. So will this bad boy live up to those expectations? I was a bit worried since he pretty much just had DPS trinkets to show for it. But he started off nicely. No overpulling. I had tanks pulling an unholy amount in the beginning, even though I think it's best to only do what's necessary and get lust going on the first boss. Only do a big trash pull if you want to lust it at the start. On the first boss, there are two important things we need to watch out for. On the second sister, or phase 2 if you will, there will be a permanent debuff that has a dot attached to it that will increase in damage when you stand still. To get rid of that, you need to be on the move. So as a caster, you want at least one step between every cast. There will also be a big curse going onto everyone that will explode once the duration ends. So make sure to keep the party alive. We can also decurse one of them with our cauterizing flame. The other thing is on the third sister, or phase 3. She will randomly apply jagged nettles. No idea if that's how I pronounce it, but my weak aura did it like this, and if you complain about my English, you're racist, and... This spell will deal a big amount of damage and leave an everlasting bleed that can only be removed by healing the target above 90% HP. So if it's on us, use a personal damage reduction to minimize incoming damage. If it's on someone else, spot heal their ass to oblivion. Besides that, now because our tank really pulled incredibly healer friendly, I was in a good mood throughout the dungeon. So we're gonna talk bosses instead. Hey, what's up my trigger?
That's gotta be racist, there's no way.
That sounds wrong. Never mind. On this boss we pretty much just need to look over two things. Deal with the spikes, which means we do need to whip out some quick damage every now and then, while also healing the affected target, and prepare the fire AoE going out once the tank decides to drag the boss into the fire. But since we don't communicate with each other, we just need to stay on our toes all day, baby. And what can I tell you? I was ready. So next up, we got your average mother-in-law. Pig Tits Jones is about to get his fat ass handed to him by the gang. For us, this is pretty much free. The only way anyone here takes damage is by messing up. So just don't stand in the frontals and go through this without any damage taken. Now, the Waker's family dispute is the only thing that sort of hurts in here. That skinny ass mother is just randomly throwing damage out to the party, and during the discordant cadenza, watching your feet is not only appreciated, but also sort of required if you want to survive. Yet this fight is similar to the console fight in Everbloom, it just gets easier over time. Once you get into the second phase, with Lady Waycrest on board to receive her beating, you can actually kick her cast, thus the entire party takes less damage. Easy. Yeah, well, the final boss, which name I won't pronounce cause I got a hard R,
There's no way.
is one of the easier ones to deal with. Only important mechanic is to kill the ad and burn them with this little extra button. For us as a healer, we also just need to make sure to heal people after the Dread Essence, since that just does a good chunk of damage to the party. Always feel free to use a personal there for sure. Another 2 chest, another portal, meaning 2 are left. And you know me, since I'm a sucker for pain, we keep the hardest one for last. This means Galakrond's Fall is next. Not only am I very confident at this point to heal this dungeon, it's also the moment where we met this lovely chap. More on that later. Now in theory, this was a no-brainer. We got a full melee gang, which I enjoy. That also means we got the most amount of kicks possible, as well as a Demon Hunter tank that usually just solos their stuff. And after a quick clarification for the confusing things said in the beginning, we decided to pull first and shroud in the end. Me personally, I enjoy shrouding to the first boss, mainly because you most likely won't wipe there, and so the trash you left behind won't be an issue anymore. If you shroud in the end, that could be a bigger time sink if you can't manage to kill the boss first try. But that's negative thinking, and I failed at 20 Galacrons today already, so no more messing up. And with that, we did pull the boss with the pack in front of it. Even though this could get sort of wonky with Sanguine, but boy did the tank do a good job. Only 1.6 mil healing done by the affix, this was barely noticeable. So far so good, but you know me, of course I can't heal my party through the trash towards the second boss. It was even me dying here on the cone ability of the bulky bastard, which one could say was a mistake by the tank. But as a melee main, I just say watch where you stand, I guess. Didn't pay attention. And because I wasn't there, our monk bit the dust too. But that was it for the trash, and so we went to the boss. Again, full melee gang is incredibly thankful for a Provoker, since all of your AoE just lands without any issues. So playing the debuff to the best of our possibilities was the most important thing here. And I'd say this went mighty fine. Like I said, I feel very good about this dungeon at this point. Not saying I'm a good healer in general, but I can work with the tactics of the bosses now. Oh yeah, on the trash towards the third boss, I actually, for the very first time, almost perfectly used that Echo Verdant Embrace Communion combo. Look at that healing done, man. I should do that more often. Now, as we all know, the third boss has 3 phases, and while the first one is just as free as an ass whooping in high school after you mention that you play World of Warcraft, the second is where the fun part starts. Necrotic Wind hits like crazy, and again, we communicated to last phase 3 instead of this one. so I once again had to heal through it. Though I felt the difference in gear here for sure. Being over 470 at this point really does make a difference. Now YOLO was the only one to die here by standing in the breath and seemingly enjoying it. Good thing is we are cooking on CR so far, since we didn't use any. Bad thing, the only guy that can use the CR is dead. Unlucky. And of course the skipping proved to be a bit of a hassle for the gang. People coming too late, not mounting, being too slow, a lot went wrong. But they all died in range to be rest, so we kinda skipped it. Almost clean? Yet no time to think about that. Boss time. Iridicron was the party pooper earlier today, so this time shit needs to work out. We are very solid on time, so even with taking it slow, 2 chests is in the bag it seems. Now what really could mess me up here is Volcanic, since I really want to channel both my breath as well as Spirit Bloom to the max for the biggest amount of quick burst heal during the barrage. When it knocks me up, I lose so much time. But it worked out, and I like how the party is staying close to me during Earth Search. Really makes things a lot easier for me. Well, besides the tank, but as long as he doesn't flop over, he can stand in a different time zone if he wants to. Even the second barrage got played very clean, and with that, only the damage check was left to get through. And even though I again panicked and just overhealed like a maniac, I believed in the group and they did it easily. Also, I again got a weapon from this run, but not the offhand from last time. A main hand. Screw you game. Give me that staff, bro. Alright, 7 out of 8 and we all know what's left. But first, I'd like to give a quick shout out to this legend. I think he was the first that recognized me in a dungeon and said hi afterwards. I'm always freaking out when one of you hits me up like this, but I'm also very joyful. Really appreciate the support you guys provide for this goofy channel. Okay, enough with this girl stuff. Back to being a manly man. Speaking of man, I got a bloody case of tank this time, so this boy ain't flopping over for nothing on this run. Also, a rare sight of a marksman hunter. Always appreciate every hunter that doesn't have 2 bodyguards with him. So in there, we did our normal shtick. Use Lust right away to get it off cooldown, and then proceed to take care of over 65% trash till arriving on the first boss. And while it felt like the lightning did hit a bit harder than before, it was still no problem. But we all know the actual first boss of this dungeon. For me personally, the name of the game was a Shockwave, so making sure I can top people off afterwards was my #1 priority. Usually I would also need to watch a tank on the Crushing Claw, but it's a DK, so let's be real here. Third boss was about to be next, and let's be honest, we all still remember what happened earlier. But boy did I not need to worry about the tank during this totem window. Look at that self here. He was just oozing it. Yet after our paladin died to the big AoE by the little mind controlling squid, I dropped my guard a little bit and was not expecting this damage to myself. I had everything in the book up to live that. Even after 8 episodes, way too much playtime and 5 characters with Keystone Hero or above, I'm still that one Dirtnap main. Never forget your roots, guys. Alright, jokes aside. So far this went quite fine. Not perfect by all means, but 10 minutes for the final boss means we maybe also have time for messing up once. And even though I failed one of our DPS again by charging up the breath for too long, this gang did not want to pump the brakes and we even managed to get it done in the +2. Fantastic! With that, we now collected all portals in this season. All of them in one sitting, and I can hear you say, "No, Kusi, no, you only did 7 in one sitting cause you done one before."
Man, shut your bitch ass up!
I got you, big boy. Of course I didn't want to give you guys something to complain here, so I applied to Murazon's Rise as well. And since I already timed that, I already know it's doable and probably won't... What the f just happened? We overpulled MDI style, didn't properly gather, didn't kick much either, and then funnily enough the guy with not a single kick left the building. You know how many volleys got through there? Anyways, I obviously didn't want to end it like this, which would be funny to be fair, so I kept applying for another run. But I applied for about 40 minutes without success. I took a break and then came back later just to keep applying for ages, till I finally got a party going. And while I let the trash killing run in the background, let's talk about what's to come for the old Slayer of Kus. First of all, I want to quickly give a shout out to all of you guys for the insane support during this entire season of Dragonflight. The fact that almost 12,000 people keep coming back to watch these videos or even just remember me is absolutely wild to me. Not to mention those few people that actually hit me up in-game and show some love. I'm just some 3500 sub Andy after all, so that's also on the wild side of things for sure. Now with that being said, This series closes a chapter of Zero to Hero for this season of Dragonflight. After all, I've pretty much been playing non-stop since the start, considering our first challenge came out a week after Season 3 released, so I'd like a little break. However, this won't mean I will stop entirely to play retail, but more on that later. The next thing is, I want to use those 4 weeks to get my crusty feet wet in that very anxious place that is Twitch. I really enjoyed the last livestream we did, talking to you lads, doing some keys with you and just laugh a bunch. Even though you asswipes didn't tell me my mic setting was garbage and you couldn't hear me half the time. But besides that, I had an absolute blast. It also happens to be that I'm pretty much on vacation just before Season 4 drops. But vacation doesn't mean I'm going anywhere, just means I'm off work. Which means we got heaps of time to play together. I'm gonna try to make this as friendly as possible to both the European and American viewers in that regards. I'll figure something out for sure, no worries. And to spice things up, streams will not only contain retail keys.
What?
I will mix it up with things like casual Season of Discovery stream, some high octane games, and even things that probably will be hilariously stressful for me, but hopefully fun for you. But I believe as long as you lads are there, I'm sure we will have a blast. Now the final thing for the announcement is a big one. It's about what class or spec to play next. And even though there are some specs I really want to play, not gonna name them for obvious reasons, I believe I found a very fun solution for that. Instead of using the wheel, we will use the magic of marbles.
For what? Why?
Now, if you don't know about marbles, it's pretty much a little game you can play where you can name every marble itself and then you let them race, I guess, to decide who's the winner. And besides just giving every marble a spec name, there will also be some things like Viewer's Choice Poll, Viewer's Choice, Pauk's Choice, or just some different things like First Mage Spec that could possibly change the outcome of this in all kind of ways. Needless to say, besides all of the specs we played in Season 3, everything else gets a shot. Also, when you are watching this video during its premiere, or a few hours after the premiere ended, there's a good chance that we are live on Twitch TV/CussySlayer right about when the premiere ends. So check that one out and come say hi, I'd really appreciate it. Now back to the final key of this series, Marathon's 20, for the last time. Needless to say, I was happy that we didn't overpull again. So I was a lot more confident in the overall ability of this party. And tier went fine besides the fact that people just ignored the last ball for some damn reason, so we took a lot more unnecessary damage. But we managed in the end, even though it took a minute. Even the second boss dropped down first try, which was a miracle considering the archers stayed alive forever. Morchi on the other hand, got a bit tricky. And that even with the good management of the dot stacks. But on 3%, just about when Morchi was to flop over, nobody died yet and I was tunneling the health bars. Yet I knew I need to get to the right Morchi as well, so I followed the party member I spotted without thinking too much about it. And it legit hit everyone but the warrior. Wipe. The last pull didn't go as clean, but we managed to take her out this time. Yet this obviously isn't timeable anymore. And so we go ahead to finish the dungeon with our heads held high. To the boss that started this dirt map addiction. And because I felt the need to honor that tradition, good old times. Well, we didn't time it, but hey, it's my challenge, so it counts.
You're joking.
With solid 9 minutes overtime, we eventually did finish this run. And speaking of finished, man, I got my way with these segues today, dude. This is where we will end. Fight! Just kidding, we obviously got the final vault to open. And boy, we got 3 myth items to choose from. So this has to be a banger. What the fuck is this? 2 wrists, 1 offhand? F*** you, Blizzard.